I spent the past year grinding the Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix speedrun with the goal of getting into the top 5 of the speedrun leaderboard. That means that I have to finish the run in under 2 hours, 14 minutes, and 20 seconds. This is by far the hardest speedrun I've ever learned, and getting to this point took a lot of practice, runs, and willpower. Before I dive into the run, I just want to go over the rules of this run real quick. I'm running the modded category for PC, which allows us to skip all of the gummy missions. This is the preferred way for a lot of runners to play the game, since gummy missions are purely auto-scrollers that can't be sped up in any way. Another mod that's allowed is the map skip mod for Port Royal, which brings up a dialog box instead of a map to get to different islands. The reason I'm using this is that because on PC, using the regular map crashes my game, so the map skip mod is a great workaround that the community came up with. Besides the gummy skip and map skip mod, I'm also allowed to use cosmetic and audio mods that don't affect the core gameplay. So I'm using an HD texture mod, a mod to replace Roxas's battle quotes with the original quotes from the PS2 version, a mod to give Sora and gang pirate outfits in Port Royal, and an audio mod to fix missing battle quotes and sound effects. All of these mods will be listed in the description down below. The run starts with me selecting beginner mode and confirming the settings. We start the game as Roxas, and despite what you might think, this is actually a really difficult part of the game, usually requiring me to reset a bunch in order to get a good run going. And furthermore, Roxas World is actually harder on beginner than on critical mode, which I'll get into later. After going through the lock-on tutorial, I select the struggle badge for +1 strength, and for the next few minutes or so, I essentially need to play perfectly in order to retain RNG manipulation, which will allow me to get the same predictable patterns on the next few fights, as long as I advance the enemy's actions enough to advance the hidden RNG values. For Cypher, after doing a full combo to get the tutorial text, I have to parry him, do 2 hits, a full combo, dodge his retaliation, and hit him once in the back followed by an air combo to kill him before he does any more actions. His retaliation attack, by the way, is triggered by the game's revenge value system, which is extremely important for me to understand for almost every boss in this game. Revenge value, or RV for short, is the value that an enemy's AI is set to in order for them to retaliate once you hit them with enough attacks. Every attack that Sora and Roxas can do has a set revenge value assigned to it, and once your attacks add up to the boss's revenge threshold, the boss will retaliate and their revenge counter will reset to 0. Their revenge counter also resets to 0 if you don't stagger them quickly enough, which will make them act out on their own. In short, the revenge value system prevents a boss from getting infinitely comboed, otherwise the game would be too easy. Knowing when the boss will retaliate will be extremely vital throughout the run, but there are some ways to bypass the system a bit near the end of the game, which I'll explain later. One last thing to note is that the big bosses that can't be staggered, such as Cerberus, Hostile Program, and Storm Rider, also do not have a revenge value, but usually behave according to your position and their HP value. If you'd like a cool visualization and explanation of the RV system, I highly recommend watching this video by SVT. I'll be keeping it as brief as I can in this video though. For the Dusk fight, I need to jump and do 10 hits to progress the fight, making sure that I don't get parried, and that I let his next attack come out right as the fight ends, meaning that I can't be too fast, otherwise RNG manip will break. Once I get the Keyblade, I do 2 hits into a full combo before the Dusk is able to start attacking. Right after skipping a few cutscenes and touching the save point, I grab the skateboard behind me and go to the Station Heights, where I do the mail delivery minigame for some quick money. I make sure to jump before I deliver the letters to skip the end lag of the reaction commands animation, and I'm able to finish the minigame in under 7 seconds. After doing that minigame just one time, I take the skateboard up to the Station Plaza and talk to Hayner. On the next day, I take the skateboard to the Station Heights again, and I have to fight another invincible Dusk. This time, I have to quickly swing at him 7 times, use reversal before he starts attacking, and do 1 more combo to progress. I select the Dream Sword in the Station of Awakening, which gives me experience boost very early in the leveling path. For the last RNG manipulated fight, I can do 5 hits on each Dusk to kill them. Just like in KH1, it's important that I time all of my air combos instead of mashing them in order to get them out as quickly as possible, since this game also doesn't have an input buffering system. After opening the potion chest and skipping some tutorial slides, I set my camera to manual, turn off summon animations, and equip aerial recovery. I walk up to the next door, and now I have to fight Twilight Thorn. At the beginning, I waste the potion to clear it from my inventory, and after doing a bunch of reaction commands, I quickly do 4 air combos and an extra hit. After Twilight Thorn wakes up, I back up to the left of the Donald portrait. I do a full combo when he comes at me, quickly move to the front and do another full combo, carefully time 2 hits in a full combo to knock the creepers away, do another full combo, back away from the thorns, and finish the fight with 3 extremely tight air combos before I'm able to get hit. It took me so long to learn this strat, you have no idea. Now it's time for the struggle fights, which are another common reset point for me, because one small mistake can cost me upwards of 30 seconds. And these fights are much more difficult on beginner because we don't get to use the early draw ability here. For Hayner, I back up into this corner, wait for him to take about 7 steps towards me before I bait him to attack me, and then I combo him a couple of times to trigger his RV, and then switch to using one combo, jumping out of the way and collecting orbs every time he attacks. Once he has only a few orbs left, I hit him only a couple of times to avoid his RV attack and try to collect the remaining orbs on the ground. Unfortunately, Hayner trolls me and picks up 1 orb at the end, but I quickly knock it out of him. Vivi is a bit more consistent than Hayner, but still precise and punishing if I mess up. At the start of the fight, I do a full overhead ground combo, followed by a lunging ground combo to trigger his RV. After the second combo, I get out of the way, combo him again, do another lunge, cut my combo short after the second hit, and do an overhead hit to trigger his RV, which allows me to get out of the way in time without getting hit. Then I combo him a couple more times to get his HP down to 0 and collect the rest of the orbs before he wakes up. For the next Dusk fight, I use reversal at the start to stop them from moving, and then use empty hits without a finisher so that I don't accidentally knock one too far away. I use reversal after every 4th hit to keep them stunned, and just keep hitting them until they all die. For Axel 1, I can start my combo during his first attack so that only my finisher staggers him, which allows me to squeeze in 2 more combos before he retaliates. I then do 1 hit into a delayed full combo and another full combo to end the fight. For the last struggle fight against Setzer, I actually lose here on purpose, since losing earns the metal accessory which comes with +1 strength. To get hit faster, I hit him once and then jump into him at the right time so that I land on the ground fast enough to cancel the hit stun and attack him again faster. Learning the timing for this is hard, but really important, because sometimes Setzer will try to back away to avoid getting hit. At the start of the Sunset Station, I equipped the medal, and now it's time to examine the 7 wonders. This ball minigame is very easy since it's the same pattern every time. The fight against the Vivi clones is a different story though, since I need really good reaction time to either hit them when they spawn, predict where they'll move to, or to get out of the way before they attack me. Unfortunately, I mess up the opening due to bad spacing, but I think I made a pretty good recovery. Shadow Roxas is a pretty tricky fight too, since his short size makes him very difficult to air combo. I knock him into the corner with a couple of air combos, making sure to delay my second hit so that it doesn't whiff, and then finish him off with a couple more combos. The bag minigame is pretty simple, but I need to make sure to avoid mashing triangle since the game can crash if I mash too quickly. Instead, I only press triangle when I absolutely need to. After that's done, I have to slowly make my way back to the Sunset Terrace and then to the mansion, using all of the skateboards that I can to get there a bit faster. At the start of the final day, we have to fight some more nobodies. I mash out a reversal at the start to stun 2 Dusks, and I have to do 6 hits on both of them to kill them. An assassin then spawns, and if I'm fast enough, I can do a full combo before he can hit me with his starting move to save a bit more time. I run past all the enemies to the mansion, grab Nominee's AI upscaled sketches, and go to the mansion's basement for the next fight. Seriously, Square Enix, can you revert the AI textures and have some actual artists upscale them instead? Like, bro, have you seen Merlin's chalkboard in KH1? This is so pathetic, man. Anyway, this fight is pretty similar to the ones before, where I use reversal to stun the Dusks between my air combos, but since there are 4 Dusks this time, I use some careful lock-on switching to hit as many of them as I can at the same time. My goal is to kill the last 2 at around the same time so that I can focus on the last 2 assassins more easily. I gain a level up in the middle of the fight, which means I only have to do 1 hit in a full combo to kill the assassins. Oh, come on, dude. Axel 2 is actually pretty easy compared to everything before. I just need to dodge his first attack, do a ground combo to knock him into the air, wait for him to land, and do another ground finisher by pressing square. And then I do a full air combo to make him disappear into the fire. I quickly go to the middle of the stage and use the first part of the RC, wait for him to land, do a full ground combo, and a full air combo to finish the fight.
I don't think they showed...
After that, Roxas summer vacation is over. I cry every time. Now this is where the fun begins. When I gain control of Sora, I set Donald and Goofy to party attack, equip Guard, unequip Donald Cure, and stock all of Donald and Goofy's items. Putting them on party attack makes it so that they don't target the same enemy that I'm targeting unless it's the only enemy left. And unequipping Donald Cure makes it so that he only uses his MP on Thunder. I make my way to the station where I have to fight a bunch of infinitely spawning nobodies. There are actually 3 ways this fight can end, either by getting low on HP, dealing enough hits to the enemies, or if the hidden timer runs out. Since this is beginner and it's hard to take damage quickly, it's more optimal to deal as many hits as possible, and this fight is also a good source of EXP. I try the best I can to combo multiple enemies at the same time to get my hits in faster, and I end up getting to level 6, which nets me another strength increase. I take the train to the Mysterious Tower where I kill all of the shadows, and Donald gets a sick triple kill on the last 3 enemies. Damn, Donald! I pick up an ether in the first room and head upstairs. The next fight is against some more shadows, so I try to use some air hits to try to catch them before they go underground, where they'd be invincible and waste time. The last fight here is against some soldiers and shadows. I kill the first soldier with a full combo and use another combo on the shadows while Donald hits them with thunder. I then do 3 empty hits on this soldier to trigger his cyclone command, but I unfortunately missed the triple kill that I was going for. The cleanup was pretty fast though, so I didn't lose too much time. With that fight done, I make my way up to Yen Sid, where I rudely stand on his table and collect my new outfit along with Valor Form, which comes with the Starseeker Keyblade. Both Valor Form and Starseeker come with the Air Combo Plus ability, which allows me to do 2 extra attacks in the air before the finisher. This will definitely come in handy. When I get to the world map, I lock onto Hollow Bastion with R1 and warp to it by pressing circle, and I'll be using this fancy movement to get around the world map faster later on. At the start of the first Hollow Bastion visit, I immediately go into Valor Form. This is because the running speed in Valor is much faster than base Sora's. I can use Valor Form's high jump ability to jump from these stairs and swing onto this platform, then press square to swing into the air and over the ledge. Valor Form's Over the Horizon ability allows me to press square to immediately start an air combo from the ground without manually pressing jump, which definitely has its uses, including the one I just showed. However, this is a situational ability, and whether I use it or do a manual jump instead depends on the position and size of the target that I'm aiming for. Pressing square in the middle of a Valor Form combo allows me to do a finisher immediately without having to go through all of the empty hits first, and this also has its uses later in the run. In the next room, I lock onto the Dusk right in front of me and try to line up my finisher to kill multiple enemies. I then focus on the samurai that spawns and do a bunch of air hits to kill him and everyone around me with Donald's help. After Yuffie pops up to say hi, I hit these soldiers a few times for some extra Valor EXP, which is gained by dealing hits to enemies. I also do a quick square press to jump over these steps and hit this shadow. I collect the Blizzard spell from Merlin and press square a bunch of times to get up these steps faster, jumping over this wall, collecting a drive recovery for later, and killing another soldier. I press square into the load zone and manually revert to cancel the end lag of the attack, which allows me to start the room transition faster. The Bailey fight is a huge RNG dependent fight and a source of many of my resets, but there was a new strat found recently that helps to mitigate this a bit. At the start of the fight, I turn around and focus on the Dusk that Leon hits first. This makes him run towards the gate faster, where I need him to hopefully stay so that he doesn't mess with the second wave of nobodies. In the old strat, I normally use a bunch of blizzards to kill the Dusks from afar while Leon swings at them, but in this new strat, I use physical hits to save my MP and quickly run over to the new wave of samurais and creepers. The goal here is to use the dual stance RC to one-shot all of the creepers, which in turn spawns the last wave of Dusks, and then I can use all of my MP to hopefully kill all of them. Unfortunately, one of the Dusks survives, and Leon was comboing a samurai all the way to the back of the arena, so I quickly move to the samurai to finish him off, hoping that Leon runs to the Dusk. Come on, Leon. Frickin' Dusk. This fight wasn't super optimal, but it was still about 5 seconds better than what I usually get on average, so we take those. From finishing up the Bailey fight, I earned the Fire spell. The Land of Dragons is next. I swap Goofy into the party since I need him for Valor form. Then I steal King's Ether, place another Ether onto Sora, turn on auto reload, and press the touchpad on my controller to skip through these tutorial slides in order to skip a couple extra slides that would have been forced onto me later. I immediately go into Valor form and run to the encampment. I use a few air hits to kill as many shadows as I can before they move underground, and killing a few of them spawns a Nightwalker, which I switch my focus to. Killing this Nightwalker spawns the second Nightwalker, and I use some more air combos to finish him. For the missions, I usually do them in order from 1, 2, and 3, but I got distracted and selected mission 2 first by accident, so I had to improvise. I used Valor form to get through the first 2 waves, getting hit a bunch of times along the way. I ended up getting Valor form level 2, which I would have gotten during mission 1 originally, and when the third wave spawns, I swap in Donald so that he can help me with his thunders.
Take this!
Yeah, not my proudest fight. For mission 1, I swap Goofy back in so that I can use some fires to build up my drive faster without Donald interrupting me, and once I run out of MP, I swap Donald back in to kill the remaining Heartless. Mission 3 is very RNG dependent, and the goal here is to kill the first couple of shadows and then commit arson on a bunch of tents so that the remaining shadows group up together, allowing me to use fire on all of them simultaneously. Unfortunately, the last shadow got stuck in a corner, losing me some more time. After killing him, I swap Goofy back in and go into Valor form, using some air hits to clear out the Nightwalkers. In total, I lost about 26 seconds to my best segments here. Whoops. Next I head up to the mountain, where I have to kill some Heartless in my path and clear some rocks. For the first wave, I lock onto the enemy on the right and lock on switch to the left, so that my finisher hits all 3 enemies. The soldier survives, so I clean him up real quick. After clearing the first set of rocks, I run into the left Nightwalker and time the reaction command on the rock to hit both enemies before they hit me. And I run up to the last set of rocks, killing a Nightwalker on the way for some extra Valor hits. I run to the cave with the Valor that I still have left, picking up this AP boost chest, and then starting the cave fight. I jump high towards the Assault Rider to get a single target finisher instead of the swipe finisher, since the single target finisher is stronger, and that allows me to kill him in 2 combos. I then have the shadows group up around me near the center of the arena and use aerial hits, fires, and physical finishers to clear them out. When the second wave of shadows is done, I need to quickly do a finisher on the Assault Rider closest to me to skip his opening attack, and I can kill each Assault Rider with 2 air combos. I go straight into Valor form and make my way up to the summit, equipping Experience Boost on the Force menu. At the start of the fight, I go into first person and look up to spawn rapid thrusters around me. I need them to hit me until I'm under 50% HP to activate Experience Boost. After about 30 seconds, the bolt towers start spawning in, so I try to focus on a specific one that always spawns in the same spot. If I do this correctly, I should be able to just kill him over and over again until I get to level 12. But unfortunately, I got trolled by the auto lock-on system too much, and I was 129 EXP away from level 12. While this is not ideal, it's thankfully not the end of the world, because I can kill some extra enemies in Olympus Coliseum to make up for the EXP and money that I'm short on. After the summit fight, I use 2 AP boosts on Sora and equip Slide Dash and Scan. I run to the save point and save warp to the Bamboo Grove, go into Valor form again, and pick up an Ether. If you're wondering how I'm going into Valor form so much without activating Anti-form, it's because I'm always making sure to go into Valor when I'm not in combat, since it's not possible to get Anti-form unless the command menu is yellow or red. The Imperial Square fight is going to be a bit tricky since I don't have the strength increase from level 12. At the start, I focus on the bolt tower on the left, and after a couple of attacks, I get hit and use aerial recovery to quickly kill the bolt tower and use a finisher on the Nightwalkers huddled up around me. The other 2 bolt towers take a couple of attacks to destroy, bringing me to level 12 just in time for Shan Yu. At the start of the Shan Yu fight, I quickly attack him with Square and go straight into a finisher 2 times in a row. Then I manually jump and do 6 hits into a finisher to get past his HP gate and put him into the second phase. As he turns purple, I try to hit him a couple times, and I back up to use Blizzard while anticipating him to dash at me so I can guard him and use the reaction command. Unfortunately though, he powers down, and because this isn't what usually happens, I kinda panicked and got hit a few times. A few combos later, and Shan Yu was dead. hell was that? Definitely not my proudest land of dragons, but there was much more of the run to look forward to. At the start of Olympus Coliseum, I wake up Meg and do a cool slide dash and lock-on switch to hit all of these dogs with Blizzard for some EXP. As I'm descending to Hell, I take a cool damage boost from this Land Soldier, do a nice slide dash past this plant, and get another damage boost from a Land Soldier. For the Invincible Hades fight, I can end this fight super quickly simply by doing a slide dash and fire. I back out of the menu and now it's time for another RNG heavy fight, Hades Escape. I start by focusing on the bat closest to me and then the shadows, while hopefully getting some help from Auron and Donald, which I thankfully do. On my way to the second platform, I go into first-person mode to potentially manipulate my party to focus off of Hades and follow me, because I need them to body block Hades' fireballs while I use fires and air hits to clear the second wave. Unfortunately, nothing went according to plan, but it do be like that sometimes. That's it. For the third platform, I jump over the Land Soldiers and hit the bat, using Bat Cry to deal more damage to everything around me. When the next wave spawns, I hit the bat again and focus on the large body, since he has the most health. And after the Bat Cry, I immediately go into the Bushido limit and mash triangle and X all the way until I get the finisher, since that does a ton of damage. The large body survives with a little bit of HP, so I combo him from the back and get the hell out of there. Overall, that was actually one of the better Hades escapes that I could have asked for. After walking all the way back to the next room, I have to fight Cerberus, and you can also fight that like and subscribe button if you're interested in watching more speedrunning content from me in the future. If you've seen a critical mode speedrun before, you might be expecting me to die and use Mickey here, but since this is a beginner and dying is slow, I actually need to be optimal without Mickey's help. For the first phase, I need to attack the left head while dodging the many chomps that Cerberus can do. Once I deal enough damage, Cerberus starts shooting orbs, so I go into Bushido and focus on the middle head while I mash X and triangle. Except this time, I stop the limit right before the finisher, since doing air combos after this will deal damage faster. I take this reaction command on purpose, which stuns Cerberus long enough for me to defeat him. More time for Mr. Bean in Unreal Engine 5. I'd love to see that. Exiting the underworld for a brief moment, I now need to go through Phil's training and annihilate some urns. While this fight might look boring, there's actually some strategy and a bit of RNG involved. For the first fight, I combo two specific groups of urns, hoping that most of them align vertically so that I can break as many as I can with one combo. The second fight is a little more complex. My goal is to kill as many urns as I can, and if I kill enough of them, it'll spawn a huge urn on the third wave. When the second wave spawns, however, there's actually a hidden timer that starts when I destroy the next urn, and after that timer reaches 0, it'll spawn the third wave. So basically, I just need to make sure to A, kill an urn as soon as the second wave spawns so that the big urn spawns as quickly as possible, B, kill enough urns to spawn the big urn in the third wave, and C, react to where the big urn spawns and knock it into a group of small urns so that they create big orbs, which are worth 10 small orbs. Looking at my script, it's really funny that my explanation for the urns fight is longer than my explanation for Cerberus. Anyhow, I go straight into Valor form right after the urns are done, and I run back to the underworld. This big chest has a power boost, so I use that on Sora, equip Aerial Dive, and customize Donald to Sora attack. This will prevent him from spamming Thunder on enemies that I'm targeting. In the next room, I hit this Ghost Heartless so that he can give me a big damage boost, but unfortunately, he was like a centimeter too far away. Here's a clip of what a successful damage boost looks like. It's pretty cool. Next, I combo this soldier and do some cool slide dash movement when he lands. I walk all the way to the next room where I have to fight some water clones from Demyx. This fight has quite a bit of RNG, but the goal here is to stay as close to Demyx as possible and catch the newly spawning clones with either the Wild Dance reaction command or the fire spell. Finishing the fight at 45 seconds, I'd say that was actually pretty decent. For the next fight, I have to protect Meg while fending off an invincible Pete and some Heartless. Since this fight is on a timer, this is actually a pretty good spot to grind EXP, so I take damage to Pete and kill the first wave of bats. This is why I have Donald on Sora attack, by the way, because if he kills the bats with Thunder, Valor, they'll only give me normal EXP instead of boosted EXP. After killing the last bat, I need to hit Pete's revenge value without him being up against a wall so that he retaliates and summons the wave of 3 soldiers next. While he's retaliating, I run away from Meg and towards a wall so that she follows me and so that 2 of the soldiers are clumped together so that I can kill them with a full fire combo. I deal a little bit of damage to the last soldier without killing him because I need to hit Pete's RV, and if I killed the last soldier specifically during Pete's retaliation, Pete will spawn the last wave of bats immediately. However, because I missed one of my attacks, Pete goes into his bubble shield and doesn't spawn the next wave before the fight fades away. It's okay though, because I'm already at level 14, so the run can proceed normally. For the real Pete fight, I move back and then forward to prevent Pete from going into a shield. Then I go into Valor form to prop him up and hit the Heartless around me. I run behind him and use back cry on him, and then finish the fight with some Valor form combos. I set Donald back to party attack and unequip experience boost, and equip my newly acquired Trinity limit. At the start of the Hydra fight, I get knocked up by his tail on purpose so that I can hit his head with a couple of precise Valor form combos. After the second combo, I can slice the head off and move on to the second phase where I completely ignore Phil's request to ascend upon the Hydra's posterior, and instead I utilize aerial dive combos to kill all 3 heads before an extra one can spawn.
Now we're playing KH. I've never played KH before.
After killing the 3rd head, I position myself onto some rubble and use Trinity on this specific head, then drop down a bit and use Ultima once all of the heads come back up, and I use the Trinity finisher to deal lots of damage. The damage here is based on how many hits I dealt during the break and Ultima, with a final hit of damage at the very end, if I'm close enough to a target. I only did 84 hits, so my damage was actually quite bad, but I got the best head pattern possible for this situation, since this pattern gives me the most time to get some combos in, and I'm able to KO him just in the nick of time, earning the Thunder spell and the Hero's Crest Keyblade. The Hero's Crest Keyblade is extremely useful because of its air combo boost ability, which increases finisher damage based on how long my air combo is. We get sent to Hollow Bastion for a brief visit, where I equip Hero's Crest and enter 100 Acre Wood. After talking to Pooh, I get yeeted from the book and have to fight off some Heartless. The goal here is to kill at least 3 enemies to spawn the rest, and then kill everyone with Trinity Limit's finisher. I can shorten the time that it takes to get to the Trinity finisher by aiming the major drive away from the enemies.
Let's go!
After talking to Pooh again, I collect the Chicken Little summon, which will be very useful a bit later in the run. Our next world is Beast's Castle. For the parlor fight, I immediately use Trinity Ultima, and using the finisher afterwards deals enough hits to immediately end the fight. I enter Valor form and run to the East Wing, then run all the way to the West Wing where I have to push this wardrobe. And no, it's impossible to do this in under 3 pushes, please stop asking me. I go into Valor form again and enter the next fight. For Thresholder, I do a full air combo with the lunging finisher, use the reaction command to free the orb, and by starting my air combo from a specific distance, I can make it so that only the second hit of my first attack lands, and by doing 2 more hits into a finisher, I can completely bypass the second phase. I enter the dungeon and pick up an AP boost, and jump up to talk to Cogsworth. Now I have to do a minigame where I have to escort Mrs. Potts and Lumiere to light some lamps, and I can use aerial dive on these lamps to close the distance and get positioned faster. Honestly, there's not much else to talk about here. After the minigame, I go back into Valor, pick up an AP boost in the next room, and enter Beast room. At the start, I stand completely still and use the reaction command to stun Beast, and do a full air combo to knock him out, then use the next reaction command to compose himself. Upon the forced menu, I swap Donald out for Goofy, save warp to Belle's room to talk to the wardrobe, save warp to the parlor, go into Valor form, and run up to the ballroom. The next 2 fights are pretty cool. For Shadow Stalker, I start the fight by walking backwards, which manipulates the boss to not disappear into the window. I can dodge his attack by jumping at the right time, and I attack him with 4 hits. He brings down the chandelier, and I use some air hits and the reaction command to release him, and then I do 2 hits into a finisher, run towards the window, wait for him to come near me, and do another attack into an instant finisher to kill. For Dark Thorn, I start the fight by doing Over the Horizon into an instant finisher, making sure the first hit misses so I don't over damage him. Then I revert from Valor and use solo Trinity limit. After the first half of the Trinity is done, I do 1 air hit and use Break to do the second half of the limit, which puts Dark Thorn at just the right amount of HP for me to defeat him in 2 combos. Next up is Disney Castle. I go into Valor form immediately and run to Minnie Mouse. For the first escort mission, I can just push Minnie against this wall instead of waiting for her to follow me, although it's actually a lot harder than it looks, so I mess up a bit at the start.
This way. Let's go.
Nice. Fly.
No, don't fly.
Fly.
Let's go.
Nice.
Sadly, I can't push her in the second phase since there isn't a wall nearby to push her against, so I have to do this the normal way, while hopefully killing a few bolt towers on the way for some extra EXP. After this, I have to leave the world to fetch Merlin and Hollow Bastion, and then I can open the door to Timeless River. I walk up to the Moogle shop and buy 2 Tourmaline rings, which together will increase my AP by 4 and my strength by 2. I open the menu to use 2 AP boosts, equip the 2 Tourmaline rings, and equip Combo Boost, which I acquired from getting to level 7 earlier. I go into Valor form in the pier and talk to Pete so I can bully him. This fight really speaks for itself.
What's that for?
For the windows, I actually start with window 2, and this is our first instance of the Chicken Little summon being used. He has a cool ability which pulls in enemies if they're a certain distance away from Sora, and I can use this combined with my attacks and magic for some quick crowd control.
Riku's DDD Monster Keyblade? I forget what that looks like.
Thunder.
The next fight is pretty similar, but this time we have these cars that give many people PTSD. Thankfully, Chicken Little's whistle and baseball can postpone the Hot Rod's desperation move or interrupt them from completing it. It's also impossible for them to DM while they're propped up in the air by thunder, so I use that to my advantage. With that fight done, I finally got enough EXP to equip Reaction Boost, which is very useful for Window 1. I summon Chicken Little again to clear the first wave. Then I back up and use 2 Blizzards into a regular finisher and run to the center to clear the remaining enemies with a couple of reaction commands. And because of Reaction Boost, I can kill the Hammer Heartless in 1 RC.
Back off. It's over.
For the last window, I utilized some air combos and Donald's Thunder to clear the first 2 waves, and then I used Trinity Major Drive into the finisher to kill the remaining Heartless. I go into Valor form immediately, and because I have 2 Keyblades and the extra strength from having 2 Keyblades, coupled with Reaction Boost, I can knock Pete unconscious with just a few RCs. I can then combo the cage, though I pick up this Mithril Shard beforehand to turn it into the Synthesis Shop later. Comboing the cage is pretty simple, but I need to make sure I delay my finishers so I can grab onto the hook whenever I need to, in order to avoid getting knocked off. I'm also looking for Valor form level 3 here, which thankfully I do get. The reason I need Valor level 3 is so that my form lasts longer during the next P fight. After Bo Pete is done, I use my drive recovery and go straight to the next fight. I do a full combo and knock Pete into the air by going into Valor form, then do 3 attacks into a finisher to trigger the next phase. Each phase is triggered by doing a finisher at a specific HP gate, and thankfully every hit of Valor counts as a finisher in the game's code. For the remainder of the fight, I hit Pete with a couple of short Valor form air combos, and then use a couple of reaction commands at the end to defeat him.
How's about a change? How's about a change?
Good luck, Hater.
What? Get out of my way!
It's over. Back off.
By finishing Disney Castle and Timeless River, I obtained the Reflect spell, Wisdom form, and the Monochrome Keyblade. Next, I head to Port Royal, where you can see the pirate outfits in action. I summon Chicken Little immediately and go to the next room. For the invincible pirates, I can do a slide dash into a blizzard to end the fight. Once they're vulnerable in the moonlight, Chicken Little can pull them in while I kill the pirates with some blizzards and thunders. The Heartless fight right after is pretty similar, where I use fires and a thunder at the end to clear everything up. I hop over these crates here and slide dash towards the cannon on the right to get to the next load zone faster. I swap out Donald for Goofy, customize Reflect on Triangle, Blank on Square, and Thunder on X. Square will eventually get filled by Magnet automatically later. I also set Donald to Sora attack, unequip Trinity and equip experience boost, and equip Monochrome for its higher magic stat. I talk to Captain Jack and go to the Isla de Muerta, and use Chicken Little and some magic spells to clean up the fight. At the Isla de Muerta, there's a minute-long fight against a bunch of pirates, so I use this moment to boost my EXP, which is actually really scary. I take a bunch of damage at the start, and then use Reflect, Blizzard, and an Ether to kill the grouped up pirates and get to level 18, hopefully without dying.
Okay. Whoa!
After the minute fight, I can talk to lingering Will Turner to get back to Port Royal, and by entering and exiting the hold and talking to Turner again, I can skip an optional pirate fight. Now it's time for one of the hardest fights in the game. I back up and reflect a couple of times, summoning Chicken Little right when the cannonball from the other ship is about to hit the pirates. Using Chicken Little, I can gather all of the pirates up and use an attack followed by 2 blizzards to kill them in one combo. This works because I have high enough of a magic stat from Monochrome in level 18 so that my blizzards do more damage. After killing the first wave of pirates all at the same time, it's a matter of memorizing the rest of the spawns and keeping them out of the shade with pristine positioning. You'll see me using our ship's cannon as well, which temporarily stops the enemy ship from firing.
Hold it! Thunder! Freeze!
With a decent fight there, I equip Hero's Crest, unequip Experience Boost, and equip Trinity Limit. Clearing the barrels here is pretty simple. After the first barrel, I do an attack towards the enemy near the second barrel, go into Valor Form, and clear out the rest of the barrels using Valor Form's movement speed to avoid taking damage. I run into the cave and mash triangle to pick up this AP boost and run all the way to the Barbossa fight. I look around in the dark to see where the Illuminator spawns, and after killing him, I do one short combo on Barbossa, followed by a full air combo to trigger his RB. I revert from Valor and use Reflect to stagger him, then I use Blizzard to freeze him and some air combos to deal damage. From beating Barbossa, I earn the Follow the Wind Keyblade and I proceed to Agrabah. I slide dash into the bandit in front of me and get hit by a couple of combos to end the fight early. I examine Mojito's Moogle shop to purchase some ethers and open the synthesis to turn in my Mithril Shard for an elixir, which I'll be using a bit later. After walking all the way to the palace gates, I change Aladdin and Goofy to Sora attack, take Aladdin's 2 ethers, and go into Wisdom Form since its quick run ability is faster than Valor Form's running speed. After re-entering the peddler shop, I head to the bazaar, where I quick run forward a few times and use fire to burn down the shops and pick up an AP boost. I walk to the Cave of Wonders and pop right back into Wisdom Form. Quick running my way down, I do a jump and reflect to get over this ledge and pick up another AP boost before heading down further. For the Abu escort mission, I can push him a little bit to get him to move faster. Also, did you know that whenever Abu jumps, his body gets really stretchy? Next is the Chasm of Challenges. Right when each platform starts to disappear, I do a jump to start falling through the platform faster. I shoot this icy cube once to prompt his revenge attack, and I use Reflect to destroy every enemy. I drop onto the back right corner and use Slide Dash to prompt an attack from the fiery globe, using another Reflect to clear the wave. Unfortunately, the last icy cube got propped up too high, so I had to smack him a couple times. For the next platform, I stand right in front of the fat bandit and wait to see what attack he does. Since he shoots a fireball, I reflect him to pop him up into the air, and then I use an aerial dive combo. The next wave is another fat bandit with some fiery globes, and this time I use Blizzard to trigger the fat bandit's revenge attack so that I can reflect him and the small guys around him. As I'm falling down to the last wave, I position myself in the middle of the right wall and face towards the center. I catch the first fortune teller on the way down with an air combo, lock on switch to the next fortune teller, reflect his projectile, and use Solo Trinity to transfer the reflect damage to the Heartless. With enough drive, I go into Wisdom Form and examine the sign to open the door. I pick up the AP boost on the right side and head into the treasure room. For the first wave of silver rocks, I carefully time a jump and reflect to deflect the orbs that they disappear to. After a couple of RCs and a reflect for the icy cubes, I get Wisdom Form level 2, so I revert and build up some more drive, using a reflect and some fires on the fiery globes. It really helps that these enemies are immune to fire since it lets me build up drive without killing anything. As soon as I have close to max drive, I go back into Wisdom Form, and killing the rest of the fiery globes gets me to Wisdom Form level 3, earning me the quick run ability for base aura. I revert immediately after killing the last fiery globe, swap out Aladdin for Goofy, reflect the attacks from the Fat Bandits, and use Trinity Ultima during my reflect iframes, using the finisher right after. I get transported back to Agrabah, and I open up my menu to equip Aerial Spiral, Quick Run, and Fantasia, which is Donald's Comet limit. At the start of the Twin Lords fight, I lock on and use Comet immediately, and as the Volcanic Lord is coming down for his second bounce, I do an Aerial Dive combo while using Comet to make him vanish with my finisher. I use the Comet Rain finisher and combo Blizzard Lord, then do a couple more air combos in the next couple phases before going into Valor. With some creative Valor combos, I can get through the rest of the fight very quickly, assuming the game doesn't troll me.
This game is so jank sometimes, man.
Back off. Back off. Back off.
Halloween Town is next. I go into Dr. Finkelstein's lab and swap out Donald for Goofy, take both of Jack's ethers, and summon Genie before leaving the room. This is because in the first fight, I need to death abuse to progress faster, and having Genie out means that Jack and Goofy can't prevent the enemies from focusing on me. I then quick run all the way to Christmas Town where I have to fight some more Heartless in Candy Cane Land. I slide dash towards the toy soldier when he hides himself, and use a precise Reflect and Blizzard combo to deal lots of damage. After killing the first wave, I immediately go into Jack's limit, Dance Call, and do a bunch of twirls before killing both toy soldiers with synchronization. I head inside Santa's house and then chase Lock, Shock, and Barrel all the way to the Curly Hill, going into Valor form before I enter the room. The fight against Prison Keeper is very tricky because my goal here is to do a very specific amount of hits to bypass an entire HP barrier, utilizing Valor's extra damage and the air combo boost ability on Hero's Crest. After pushing the boss to its next HP gate, I have to start my next combo right when the red fire appears, intentionally missing the first 3 hits, landing the next 3 hits, and doing a finisher. After that, I can do another full air combo to bypass the second phase and go straight to the third phase. The boss uses Barrel, so I reflect this chomp and do a few combos to get into the last phase. As he's transitioning into last phase, I switch out Goofy for Donald and distance myself from the boss to force him to use a fireball on me. I reflect the fireball as I'm walking towards the boss and use Aerial Dive to get the reflect damage to transfer to him. And after triggering his RV, I use Reflect on the ground and go into the Comet limit. After my next air combo, I use Comet to keep the boss stun locked, then my next combo triggers the boss's RV, and I time my last combo with the Comet finisher to finish the fight. This is now the halfway point of the run, so leave a comment down below if you made it this far, and let me know what game you'd like to see me speedrun in the future. After a satisfying fight, I quick run to the Hinterlands, go into Wisdom Form, and pick up an AP boost. I use the save point in the next room to save warp to Santa's house, and I pick up another AP boost there. The Oogie fight is admittedly one of my least favorite fights in the run, but there is a bit of nuance here. For the first phase, I simply need to hit the presence towards Oogie, and when his platform breaks, I need to hit him with a combo and a half. If Jack uses fire early, it's actually possible to get Oogie to his HP gate with a single air combo, but unfortunately, Jack uses Blizzard instead. For second phase, after hitting the first few presents back at Oogie, he spawns some of his Oogie gifts. Once the next present is fully spawned, I summon Chicken Little, and when the first big fist is about to come down, I quick run forward, quickly go into FPS mode, and after the first fist slam, I end the limit to get Chicken Little to pull in the White Knight and protect him from the giant fist. That's because when Oogie moves to a new platform, I need to prevent the White Knight from despawning or dying so that Oogie doesn't send more of his Oogie gifts my way. This is also why I prod the White Knight with Thunder after knocking the second present away, to delay the White Knight's despawn timer so that he despawns after I go back to the middle platform. For the last phase, I just need to simply knock the presents back at Oogie while dodging the lightning, then react to where Oogie is moving to and repeat. I'll swap Jack back into the party so that he hopefully does some fire damage on Oogie.
Where you go? I'll swap you flat. That's right. Away you go. Now you just try dodging this. That's right, away you go! I'll squash you flat! That's right, away you go! Now you just try dodging this! That's right, away you go! I'll squash you flat!
Jack!
That's right, away you go!
From defeating Oogie, I obtain the Magnet spell, and I hop all the way to Twilight Town. I summon Genie and make sure he's in Wisdom form. At the start of the Sandlot fight, I lock on and use Genie's Strike, making sure to lock on switch to the Dusk on the right so that everyone takes equal damage. The Dusks all retaliate towards Genie, and I use some Reflects to clear the wave. Next, I reflect the Berserker's weapon, lock onto him, and use a Magnet into another Strike, repeating that once more and using an Ether after. After cleaning up Wave 2, I dismiss Genie and go to a corner, quick run to the side as the Berserkers are jumping towards me, lock on and use a Magnet into Trinity Ultima to kill everyone. This works because while the enemies are stuck in Magnet, the Trinity Ultima makes them rapidly go in and out of the Magnet, doing lots of damage in the process. However, this requires good positioning, good timing, and good RNG. I head back to the station where I earn Oathkeeper and Limit form, which will both come in handy a bit later. Since Hollow Bastion is now covered by darkness, it's time to go back there. I go into Wisdom form immediately and jump while moving with fire to make it to the green platform. I quick run all the way to Merlin's place, then move to the Bailey, doing a cool jump with Blizzard here, and doing a fire after the last ledge grab to get into the load zone faster. I jump down towards this newly opened area and take the skateboard to the postern where I collect an AP boost. In the corridors, I pick up another AP boost and proceed to Ansem Study. I talk to Leon and access the computer to enter Space Paranoids. I back up a little bit and do a slide dash into a drive explosion to pick up a lot of orbs, since every drive form in the game comes with a draw ability, allowing you to pick up orbs from a longer distance. I go to the next room where I have to do this minigame with a bunch of cubes, but to end the minigame quickly, I can just go into Wisdom form, and the drive explosion counts as a finisher, which activates the red cube immediately. I go back to the terminal to leave, examine this wall, and obtain Master form. I skip the Stitch chest since we won't be needing him, and go back to SP, where I now have to go through the light cycle. The first part of this has a bit of RNG, but I essentially need to kill the first two blue enemies, react to where the yellow ones spawn and charge into them, and then charge into one more green enemy to progress to the next section. The second part is actually a lot more straightforward, since my goal isn't to kill a certain amount of enemies, but just to get to the end of the section. Not only that, but the path I take is always the same every run, and every enemy spawn is 100% consistent this time around. I can use the green enemies to clank off of their shields as I'm making a turn to get a big boost, while getting rid of the yellow and blue enemies, which can charge or hit me respectively. The white enemies, on the other hand, can choose any of the three aforementioned actions, so I can get a couple of bonus boosts from them if they choose to shield, which of course is based on random chance. And finally, if I stay in the center here while going towards the end, the cannons from the Devastator Heartless will fade away before they hit me, or I could block them if I wanted to, but I like to live life dangerously. For the menu afterwards, I use all 8 of my AP boosts that I collected, take Tron's Ether, equip Follow the Wind on Sora for its draw ability, and equip Guard and Finishing Leap. Before I enter the data space, I summon Genie and make sure he's in Master form, and then I examine this computer to start the fight. For the first 2 waves, if I simply stand on the right spot and use Magnet plus Genie's Arcana attack, I can suck the enemies into the Magnet and kill enough enemies and pick up enough orbs to fill my meter, allowing me to freeze a monitor.
Gather!
As I head to the second monitor, I make sure Genie gets dismissed and go into the corner before freezing the monitor, because it'll spawn the last wave of enemies close to each other, allowing me to use a Magnet plus Solo Trinity to kill them quickly and build up enough drive for the upcoming boss. With the last monitor frozen, I open the menu again to equip Hero's Crest on Sora and Oathkeeper on Master form. Oathkeeper comes with Form Boost, which increases the duration that a form lasts. In the hallway, I pick up another AP boost and head towards the communications room and then to the boss. At the start of the hostile program fight, I do one quick run while starting the Comet limit, and after my first air combo finisher, I start the Comet Rain finisher. After another combo, I center myself in front of the boss to prevent him from moving away from me, and use an aerial dive combo, making sure that each hit connects before I use the next hit in order to get past the first HP gate and to maximize my damage output. I pick up as many orbs as I can until I go into Master Form to pick up the rest, then I immediately freeze the boss. I use Master Form's aerial dodge and a fire to close the gap, and do 2 air combos for massive damage. When the boss unfreezes, I do another hit into a blizzard, which puts the boss into 3rd phase and drops enough orbs for me to freeze him again. I time the RC to freeze the boss right next to me, and use some carefully timed comets and air combos to finish the fight before the boss is able to move away from me. After examining the computer one more time, I head to the corridors to fight some Heartless and Nobodies. I immediately use a magnet at the start, wait for everyone to get sucked in, use another magnet and a Trinity Major Drive. I turn to the left a bit to prevent Goofy from messing up the fight and use the Trinity Finisher, which kills everything and spawns the next wave. I hit the Armored Knight closest to me, back up into a corner, lock onto the Dusk in the back, and summon Chicken Little right when I get the Rising Sun reaction command, and then I can spam Rising Sun while Chicken Little pulls everyone into the corner. Sadly, I get a bit unlucky with some of the Rising Suns missing, so I have to use some combos to kill the remaining enemies. The next fight is against some Dancers and Creepers. At the start, I summon Chicken Little and do 2 combos. One combo with 2 Blizzards and a normal finisher, and another combo with 2 Blizzards followed by Finishing Leap. With some trolling from the security system, I have to use some extra hits to clean up the rest, and I do the same exact combos on the next wave, using an Ether after the next combo. Once the second wave is cleared, I let Chicken Little pull in all of the Dancers before dismissing him, and then I use 2 Fires, a Finishing Leap, and then a Magnet Trinity Major Drive combo to kill all of the Dancers and to build up some drive. And now we have a fight against Demyx, who I'm sure has given a lot of people watching some trouble in their playthroughs. At the start of this fight, I need to clear some water clones until there are about 30 of them remaining. After that, I position myself onto a specific symbol on the ground and use a Trinity Ultima followed by Major Drive to clear as many water clones as possible and get as many hits as possible. Since there are less than 6 water clones remaining, I can safely use the Trinity Finisher to clear the rest of the water clones and deal massive damage to Demyx. I hit him with a ground combo and go straight into Limit Form. Then I hit him with another full combo, followed by Ragnarok, which triggers his RB. During his downward slash, I start up an Ars Arcanum and use all of the bashes to finish the fight.
Take this!
With that fight done and Goofy presumably dead, I unequip Guard and equip Flash Step and Vicinity Break. Time for the Final Fantasy fights. For the first fight with Yuffie, I walk forward and use a magnet and an air combo to clear the wave of shadows. I use another magnet and an air combo on the Armored Knights, hoping to keep at least 1 or 2 alive, and then I back away and use Rising Sun, which one of the survivors gave me. With an air combo to clean up the rest, I move down to the Leon segment. I lock on and use a magnet plus solo Trinity, ending the Trinity early before doing the break RC and going straight into Limit Form. I pop an Ether and immediately use a Sonic Blade before the Ether gets used, which allows me to go into a second Sonic Blade immediately without going into MP recharge. I focus the Morningstar since it has the most HP, and then I prod some enemies to attack me using Vicinity Break, which I'm able to reflect in order to build up a bit of drive. I pop another Ether as the invisible wall is disappearing, and I quick run to the Tifa segment. First, I need to prod some of these Armored Knights, and then I can use Rising Sun to hopefully clear the first 2 wave of Morningstars. With the first 2 waves deleted thanks to Tifa's help, I can use a Reflect into a Magnet and Solo Trinity to group up most of the remaining Shadows and Morningstars to build up a lot of drive. As you may know, drive actually builds up faster when you're in MP recharge. I can then simply use air combos to clean up the rest of the enemies. Finally, I proceed to the Cloud segment and I go into Limit Form to clear the entire wave of Shadows with the Drive Explosion before Cloud is able to knock them away. I immediately revert from Limit Form and use Thunder on a Surveillance bot to get the Snag and Sparkle Ray reaction commands, which I use to deal massive damage to the surrounding Morningstars. When the next wave of enemies start spawning, I use another Magnet into Trinity to quickly clear out some Heartless while Cloud deals with the rest, and I can position myself in front of the load zone to enter enter it immediately after the fight ends. With those fights done and Foigox in our party, I equip his Jackpot ability, pick up this AP boost, and go to the Great Maw. For the fight against the 1k Heartless, I need to use the Surveillance Bot reaction commands to kill all the enemies as quickly as possible. There are a few things I need to keep in mind though. Firstly, when I use Sparkle Ray, I need the laser to be pointed behind Sora and towards the camera as often as possible, since this spawns more enemies more quickly. If the Surveillance Bot is twirling around and is about to spawn lasers, I can use Thunder to skip the attack and get an instant RC, or I can wait out the animation until it's done a full twirl around the lasers to grab it without using magic. I also need to stay as close to the center of the arena as possible, because if I were to use Sparkle Ray near a wall, it wouldn't spawn nearly as many enemies around me, and I would be killing a lot less as a result. I can manipulate the direction that Sora throws the Surveillance Bot in by delaying my Sparkle Ray a bit, because the direction the Heartless is thrown is determined by when the laser beam starts shooting. Lastly, if I'm not confident that I can get out of the way of an attack in time, I'll use a Reflect to protect myself, hopefully without killing a Surveillance Bot by accident. Oh, and there's a lot of RNG here, but I probably didn't have to tell you that.
There, back off! There, take this! Take this! Okay, take this! Okay, this is it! There, it's over! There, it's over!
With a decent enough fight, it's time to start the second visits, which are a lot shorter than the first visits, but still jam-packed with action. My first revisit is Beast's Castle. I enter the parlor to open up save point access from the world map for later, and then I go talk to Beast. I take Beast out of my party since in the ballroom fight, I need to use a Magnet and Trinity Ultima combo to kill all of the nobodies.
Gather! Let's go!
I go all the way to Beast's room using Wisdom Form's Quick Run, and talking to Beast earns me the Rumbling Rose Keyblade. I remove Beast from my party, use my 2 AP boosts, equip Rumbling Rose on Sora, put Hero's Crest on Master Form, put the Elixir from earlier into my inventory, and equip Guard Break. I'm actually going to leave the world for now and come back when I'm a bit stronger, but now I have arguably the most useful Keyblade in the run, which has our only finishing plus of the run. I fly over to Port Royal, presetting my cursor onto Goofy in the party menu as I quick run to the first fight. I wait for the pirates to start moving a bit, and I do a full Blizzard combo to wipe everyone out, swapping out Goofy for Donald during the last Blizzard finisher. I talk to Jack to go to the Isla de Muerta, skip the fight by entering and leaving the Captain's stateroom, talk to Jack again, and leave the Captain's stateroom again to fight Grim Reaper. The first couple of combos are consistent here. The first combo is a Slide Dash, Blizzard, Guard Break, Finishing Leap, then a Blizzard, Blizzard, Guard Break, Finishing Leap. Then I wait to see if he attacks, which I reflect and do 3 blizzards, going into Comet after the last blizzard, and using the Comet Rain finisher as soon as possible, during which I can put in some more damage with a Finishing Leap combo and an air combo if my timing is good. After Grim Reaper disappears and reappears, I go into Master Form, do a full air combo starting with Blizzard, and end my combo with the Blizzard finisher. However, using Master Form's Endless Magic ability, I'm able to extend my combo with additional Blizzard finishers and a final physical finisher, since my damage from the first phase was good enough. Defeating GR1 earns me the Horizontal Slash ability, which I equip in the very next room. I summon Genie and make sure he's in Master Form, and then I use a Magnet into Arcana combo to quickly kill the Gambler. I talk to Jack on the ship to take me to the Isla de Muerta. I skip the boat fight like last time, and at the island I summon Genie again, this time making sure he's in Valor Form. The reason for this is because Genie's Valor attacks take up less of the summon meter, so while Master Form Genie would be faster for the first Gambler or two, his gauge would run out too quickly for the last fight. Magnet combined with Valor Genie is still pretty good though, as long as I do a bit of damage beforehand. After killing the last Gambler, I make sure to use an Ether so that I'm full on MP before going into the next fight. After collecting all 4 of the missing medallions, I talk to Jack to go back to Port Royal to fight Grim Reaper again. This is actually my favorite fight in the entire run, which might be surprising to some of you. At the start of the fight, I cast Blizzard to stop him from moving, then get behind him to use 2 Thunders and a delayed Reflect to safely pick up all of the medallions. I put them all into the chest and summon Genie. By changing Genie's form after every second horizontal slash, I'm able to artificially extend my combo and do infinite horizontal slashes as long as my input timing is really good. After I hit his first HP gate, I dismiss Genie and walk to the front of the boss, reflecting his attack and mashing triangle immediately to use the reaction command. I mash triangle again to throw his weapon up at him, and as soon as I land, I lock on while he's off screen and use 2 thunders to make him drop the remaining medallions. I quickly pick them all up, dump them into the chest, and use Comet while quick running to the boss to close the distance. I now need to carefully time my Comet inputs with each of my finishers and aerial spirals to keep the boss stun locked and prevent him from teleporting, and this is actually the most difficult part of the fight for me since the timing is extremely precise for the Comet inputs. Unfortunately, Grim Reaper broke out right when I was about to hit his HP gate, but thankfully he didn't go too far from me, so I hit him with a horizontal slash since that counts as a finisher. For the start of his last phase, I camp out on top of his box, and when he's about to do his big slam attack, I go to the chest and activate Master Form. When the boss starts moving, I use Master Form's Thunder to hit him with multiple thunder strikes per input, making sure that Sora's feet touch the ground before each thunder. When I'm close to knocking out all of the medallions from him, I shoot a blizzard, collect all of the remaining coins, and put them into the chest, and immediately pop another Comet, this time using aerial dive instead of aerial spiral for my air combos, since the boss is higher up above me. With Grim Reaper defeated once and for all, I earn a magnet upgrade, and most importantly, Donald's Flare Force ability, which is arguably the best ability in the entire game. Next up is Agrabah 2. I change out Goofy for Donald and go straight into Wisdom Form. Since some bulky vendors spawn here, I use Blizzard to break the shops and grab this bulky vendor for a ton of EXP. This will help me to get to level 30 by the time I fight Genie Jafar, which is very important, since level 30 gives me a strength increase. For the first carpet fight, I back up to the wall and use Magnet and Thunder to kill most of the rapid thrusters, which spawns the wave of hook bats. When the magnet ends, I use a Reflect and a Magnet, then an Ether, another Magnet, and a Thunder to prod the Fortune Tellers to attack me so I can reflect them. Next, I have to chase down Jafar's ghost and use Thunder whenever he stops moving. He follows the same path every time, so this is just simple memorization. I head to the top of the tower where there are more Heartless to fight. I back up and use a Magnet, Finishing Leap, and Magnet to kill all of the rapid thrusters. Unfortunately, one survives, so I have to kill it with some air hits and use an extra Magnet to catch the Fortune Tellers, followed by an Ether. I fly down near the wall to bait the Heartless to come towards me, and I reflect into a Magnet and Finishing Leap, followed by an extra Ether, and then I do another Reflect into Magnet and Finishing Leap, followed by an aerial spiral and a horizontal slash to kill the Crimson Jazz. The section with the switches is pretty simple, but can be tricky to do consistently since the Heartless can sometimes get in the way of your lock-on and screw you up if you're not paying close attention. I go to the Thunder switch first, then fly to the Blizzard switch and end with the Fire switch, since that puts me close to the tower's entrance when the puzzle ends, and I can just fly straight up to the entrance afterwards. After this, we have a pretty long auto-scroller where I try to kill all of the Heartless for some EXP. There are some moments where I want to delay killing some of the Heartless to knock them into another one in the distance, such as when I launch this Rapid Thruster into the Fat Bandit and this Fortune Teller into another Fat Bandit. After the carpet escape, I leave the world, and I'll come back to it when I have more strength and a better Keyblade. Next, I enter Halloween Town. I swap out Jack for Goofy, unequip Donald's Comet, and equip Flare Force. The fight against Lockshock and Barrel is very easy. I immediately lock on and use a Magnet into a Trinity Major Drive, and the Trinity Finisher knocks all 3 of them unconscious, allowing me to trap them in the boxes. I have to go to the Guillotine Square to collect some presents, so with some help from Chicken Little, I use 2 Magnets, dismiss Chicken Little, and walk forward a bit, use a 3rd Magnet and a Trinity Major Drive to kill the entire wave of White Knights, making sure to pick up all 4 presents before the Graveyard Heartless can get to me. Man, those things are terrifying. I head to the wrapping room where I have to play a minigame where I shoot presents into boxes. The bigger the box, the better, but it's completely random, but thankfully my RNG was actually pretty decent. And with some decent RNG, it's time to fight the experiment. At the start of the fight, I immediately use Duck Flare, and during my second horizontal slash, I use the Mega Duck Flare finisher. After hitting Experiment's first HP gate, I position myself between the 2 candy canes to bring the boss over to that side of the arena, and use 2 ethers to fill up my MP. After I do a full combo to break him apart, I dodge a spin attack with Quick Run and throw his body into his head to put him back together, and I use another round of Duck Flare and some air combos. After a couple of rounds of aerial dives and aerial spirals, I quickly use the elixir and do a Reflect, Thunder, Reflect combo into another Duck Flare and some air combos to finish the fight.
This is fine. Okay. I messed up my combos, but it still worked.
For completing Halloween Town, I earned the Decisive Pumpkin Keyblade, which comes with combo boost. I re-enter Agrabah and equip Decisive Pumpkin. With the DP and the extra strength from level 30, I'm able to skip Genie Jafar's Desperation move. At the start, I need to combo Jafar's abs to stun him, and then I quickly rise and use the Carpet's Aerial Sweep for some extra damage during the first combo. I back up a bit before my next combo and use the Carpet's Slide Dash, which does multiple hits of damage, and for the third combo, I use a Blizzard after Slide Dash to get past his HP gate before I use the combo finisher. I use Reflect to block Jafar's stun move, combo his abs, and use a few combos on his head, using a Blizzard at the start of my second ground combo to get past his HP gate. After the third ground combo, I use the reaction command on his head to stun him for longer, and do a couple more ground combos to finish the fight.
Yeah, this is it. This is it.
Now that my stats are better, I go back to Beast's Castle, docking in the parlor. I open the menu to equip Rumbling Rose on Sora, put Decisive Pumpkin on Valor form, and then go into Master form before leaving the parlor. For the first wave of Dragoons here, I lock on and immediately use Magnet, which lasts a lot longer in Master form. I use 4 attacks without using the combo finisher, revert from Master, and do a Magnet finishing leap on the Dusks with some air combos to finish them off. For the last wave of Dragoons, I position myself between the 2 pillars in front of the middle Dragoon and use a Magnet plus Trinity Ultima, which almost kills all of them without the final finisher. After that fight, I go into Valor form and run to the courtyard to fight Zaldin, and you better not blink or you'll miss this entire fight. At the start, I run off to the right side and mash triangle as fast as I can to get 9 jump commands. Unfortunately, Zaldin does his slow attack and I'm unable to mash out enough jumps, so I have to wait for a second attack to farm the rest, and I use the remaining jumps. After the last jump command, I do a short combo with an instant finisher, revert from Valor immediately to land on the ground faster, and use Duck Flare the moment that I can, using Mega Duck Flare after my first horizontal slash. After doing a full air combo, I put in a couple of aerial dives and aerial spirals, using what we call damage stacking. Basically, whenever Sora hits an enemy at the same time a rocket from Duck Flare hits the enemy, the damage from every physical hit is multiplied, and you end up doing way more damage than normal. This is why it's good to use aerial dive and aerial spiral, since those do very many hits of damage compared to all of the other moves in our moveset. Defeating Zaldin earns me a Reflect upgrade. Lastly, I have to complete the Land of Dragons. Upon entering the world, I back out of my menu and head up to the mountain to fight Riku. I mash the attack button at the start to get a guaranteed slide dash, and after guard break, I use Reflera followed by Solo Trinity. I also hold down on the right analog stick to pan the camera down, which prevents rapid thrusters from spawning. This is important because when I go into limit form, I need to do a Zantetsuken on Riku, which is a single target, and having extra enemies around would cause Sora to do a Ripple Drive finisher instead. After the Zantetsuken, I can use Sonic Blade to end the fight. I switch Mulan out of the party and go into Wisdom form. I can use the Fire spell to jump over the wooden rubble, and I can use Fire again towards this Nightwalker to get on top of the platform faster. I head my way down the mountain and go to the Imperial Square, reverting from Wisdom form before I trigger the next fight. I immediately use a Magnet plus Trinity Ultima to pull everything in and deal a massive amount of hits, and hopefully the finisher will kill everyone.
What?
Yeah. It's over.
Sometimes the game hates me. What can you do? I head up to the throne room where I have to fight some Dusks and Snipers. I use Vicinity Break at the start after a small delay to prod everyone to attack me, and I use Reflect a couple of times into a Magnet to deal a lot of damage. Unfortunately, I got some extremely rare RNG where the Snipers all chose to do nothing, so that messed up my timings a little bit. After killing the first wave, I Reflect a couple more times into a Magnet and Finishing Leap, and use Duck Flare to clean up the stragglers. I then leave the palace, but make sure to go into Valor form first. Storm Rider is one of the hardest fights in the game for me. At the start, I need to lock onto his horn and do a couple of attacks before using the RC to grab onto the horn. After I let go, I wait for the lightning to disappear and do a short round combo into an instant double finisher. I try to time my next combo to kill a smaller horn and deal damage to the main horn with the second finisher, but unfortunately I couldn't get the second finisher out in time because I waited too long for the next set of lightning to disappear. I unfortunately get knocked off before I'm able to put in enough damage, so I have to climb back onto him using the tornadoes. After I put in a bit more damage, Stormrider disappears and does his glide attack. I'm able to reflect this and use the swag reaction command for some more damage. As soon as I regain control of Sora, I immediately start a Duck Flare on his left horn, do a full air combo while using Rocket Flare during the second horizontal slash, and I use Mega Duck Flare when he puts his head up the first time. During the Mega Duck Flare, I use 2 sets of aerial dive and aerial sweep, and use a couple finishers to kill. Unfortunately, I lost about 20 seconds to my best segment on the split, but I was still making good pace overall. Finally, it's time for me to go back to Twilight Town. I grab the skateboard, jump over this bush, and proceed through the tunnels to get to the tram common faster. I quick run all the way to the forest, summon Genie after a few quick runs so that I have iframes while the sniper is shooting me, and go to the mansion, making sure that Genie is in master form. For this fight, I'll be utilizing a lot of Magnet and Arcana combos, using an Ether when I need to. All of my positioning here is very deliberate, but this fight also depends a little bit on Mickey's RNG. I don't want him to use his finisher very often since it can knock enemies super far away from me, but unfortunately that's not something I can control. Now let's see how this fight goes. Nice best segment. I dismiss Genie and equip Goofy's Tornado Fusion ability, otherwise known as his Whirly Goof limit. I go down to the computer room, give Pence the name of the ice cream flavor, go through the light beam, and enter this mysterious orb thing. For the first fight against these Dusks, I immediately do a reversal, lock on, and use Magnet plus Whirly Goof, which not only kills the Dusks very quickly, but also helps me to build up my drive. The second fight is much trickier. I first do a vicinity break to prod all of the Dusks. They'll always target Axel here, so I walk towards him and reflect the Dusk's attack, using a Magnet into Finishing Leap and a Fire for some extra damage. Another Magnet and Finishing Leap kills enough Dusks to spawn some Assassins, so then I can go for some Reflects, Magnets, and Finishing Leaps to hopefully kill the remaining enemies. I go into Limit Form to refill my MP, revert immediately, and continue the Magnet and Finishing Leap combos. Unfortunately, Axel wasn't being super helpful, so I still had another Assassin to kill when my MP ran out again. Thankfully, I built up enough drive to go into Limit Form one more time, and this time I use a Ragnarok to deplete the Assassin's HP. And now it's time for the last world, the world that never was. In the Fragment Crossing, I go straight into Wisdom Form and quick run to the next room to fight Roxas. For this fight, I start with a Reflect, Blizzard, and Limit Form, and I do a full ground combo, revert, use a Blizzard, and then a couple of Reflects. From here on out, I'm going to loop Roxas with ground combos, pushing him to his RB so I can damage him with 2 Reflect finishers, then get hit on purpose so I can reflect him right after using Aerial Recovery to stagger him out of his combo.
Take this. Yeah, defend. It's over. There. Defend.
Okay, I actually got lucky because I forgot to use an Ether when I was supposed to.
Going to the brink of despair, I open my menu to shortcut Ethers on X, unequip Vicinity Break, and equip Slapshot, unequip Reaction Boost and equip Combo Master, and equip the 2-become-1 Keyblade. Combo Master is important because it'll allow me to chain Reflect and Slapshots together seamlessly and with no delay. 2-become-1 comes with an ability called Light and Darkness, which guarantees anti-form whenever I go into a drive while in combat. I use this ability to my advantage to enter anti-form a couple of times in order to lower my anti-points, which will allow me to avoid anti-form during some fights later. In the elevator room, I use a Magnet and Trinity Ultima to build up my drive gauge, allowing me to go into anti-form a second time. In the next room, I replace 2-become-1 with Rumbling Rose, and I purchase as many Ethers as I can from the Moogle shop. Now it's time to fight Xigbar. At the start of this fight, I reflect his opening shot to get the reaction command, then after he shoots at me 3 times, I use Duck Flare and some air combos to keep him stun locked after he reloads, since that's when he's open. The timing for the combos and Duck Flare inputs is rather tricky, but I'll spare the fine details. The most important thing is to let every hit of Aerial Dive and Aerial Sweep connect with Xigbar to maximize my damage stacking with Duck Flare. I go into Valor form after his next set of 3 shots, and I stagger Xigbar to just below his HP gate for second phase, since he would start shooting the big blue lasers if I overdamage him. When he reloads again, I do the same Duck Flare air combos to stunlock him and end the fight before he's able to use his desperation move. In the next room, I go into Wisdom Form again and quick run all the way to the Luxord fight, which in my opinion is the hardest fight in the game. At the start of the fight, I immediately jump back to avoid getting hit, wait for Luxord to start his next attack, and deplete my form gauge by jumping into Luxord repeatedly, and then for the last jump I need to get behind him to avoid taking damage, and I can start attacking him. I do specific combos to knock him in the air, and I hit his RV in the air to guarantee that he summons cards around him, which I can use for some reflect damage against him. After a few similar combos, I'll start trying to loop him by reflecting his minigame attack instead of using the reaction command, and it's important for me to hit his RV while he's on the ground so there's a chance of him doing the minigame attack in the first place. Unfortunately, it's random whether or not he does this, so I need to react accordingly. If he summons cards instead, I need to quick run to him and do 2 quick combos to catch him before he turns into a card, followed by some reflects for extra damage, and then try to go for a minigame again by hitting his RV on the ground. Once his time gauge is low enough, I can use Trinity Limit to stunlock him and deal damage, and some limit form combos with Ars Arcanum to skip his long desperation move.
It's over.
A challenge, is it?
Defense. Gather.
A challenge, is it?
Yeah. It's over.
A challenge, is it?
Back off. This is it. This is it. Let's go. Yeah. Back off. Back off. Take this. This is it.
Saïx is up next and is way more straightforward. At the start of the fight, I reflect his first combo, pick up the Claymore, and hit him with it to deplete his Berserk meter.
Be gone! Be gone!
Take this.
I use Magnet on him to force his retaliation move, which I reflect while starting a Duck Flare before finishing my combo with a double finisher. When he lands, I use Mega Duck Flare and do 5 aerial spirals, a flash step combo into Guard Break, and go straight into Master Form to delay Saïx's retaliation. Next I do 2 sets of Reflect, Hit, Reflect, Blizzard, and when my drive runs out, I walk up close to him and use 2 Reflects and Duck Flare to stagger him before he goes into Berserk mode, finishing the fight with Mega Duck Flare, Aerial Spiral, and 1 more ground combo.
It's over.
In the next room, I take an Ether from Riku for safety and use Wisdom Form quick run all the way to Xemnas 1. Xemnas puts a curse on me and I dispel the curse immediately using the reaction command on the building. I need to wait for the 3rd prompt to pop up to deal a lot of damage to Xemnas, and this also puts him in a good position for me to air combo him towards the center.
Back off.
Then I go for 4 sets of Reflect, Slapshot, Reflect, and after the 4th combo, I use Guard Break and a full combo with a Guard Break into Finishing Leap to push his RV.
Defense. This is it. Back off. Take this.
Xemnas does his Desperation move, so I utilize some more Reflects to deal a bunch of damage and go into Limit Form using Ars Arcanum to stagger him out of his DM, a Xantatsuken combo, and another Ars Arcanum to end the fight.
Take this.
And now it's time for the final gauntlet. After slicing through a bunch of buildings in the first room and slicing through a bunch of buildings in the second room, I have to destroy some engines from Xemnas' crib. To do that, I simply use a bunch of Magnera spells, during which Riku kindly throws me an Ether. For his reward, I remove him from the party and continue spacing out my magnets. After the last magnet, I go into Master Form and preset Thunder into my command menu. The fight against the core is one of the trickiest in the game. As I'm dropping down, I lock on and cast Magnet, which spawns the first wave of enemies immediately, and I do a couple of attacks into a Thunder to clear out enough enemies to spawn the next wave of creepers. I revert from Master, jump in the center of the arena, and use a Magnet into Whirligoof to kill the nobodies and fill up my drive gauge. I use 2 Ethers and summon Genie, then do a couple of Genie form canceling combos to go straight to the next phase. I get knocked backwards by the Berserker's Claymore on purpose and do an aerial recovery into a Magna Arcana combo while lock-on switching to make sure that the projectiles are hitting all of the assassins. And at this point, my internet died for about 30 seconds, and because I wasn't local recording, I didn't have footage for the rest of this fight. So I'll be using one of my previous PBs to explain the rest. After Genie's Arcana is done, I use Magnet on the Creeper and dismiss Genie, use another Magnet, and use a Trinity Ultima to kill most of the enemies to build up my drive. I walk closer to the core and use the Trinity Finisher, which does massive damage, and then I do a couple of ground hits into Valor form. In Valor, I do an instant ground finisher into the second Spiral Finisher, revert from Valor, start up an air combo, and start Duck Flare during my horizontal slashes. After landing on the ground, I use Mega Duck Flare and use Aerial Dive and Aerial Sweep to fill up my drive while dealing damage. Before I press triangle to end the fight, I go into Valor form, since going into Valor during the Armored Xemnas fight would put me into anti-form. For Armored Xemnas, I'm able to time my Valor finisher to come out when I'm about to get hit, which gives me some brief invincibility. And after the second finisher, I revert from Valor and use some ground combos with some reflects when I need them. When he puts up his barrier, I reflect a bit early so I can fit in a Blizzard and 2 reflect finishers for extra damage. Then I use Duck Flare, use Mega Duck Flare immediately, and do a couple more combos to kill, which gets me another best segment. Dragon Xemnas is a pretty lengthy auto-scroller, but I can use Combo Master and Riku's Laser to extend my finishers infinitely, kinda similar to the Genie combo extensions you saw earlier. This allows me to instantly knock all of the enemies back into the dragon with my finishers instead of having to do a full combo each time. While I'm doing this, I also use the Drain command to build up energy and use a Mega Laser for every other part. Unfortunately, I was a bit flustered from my internet cutting out, so I completely forgot to use the last Mega Laser when I was supposed to, and lost 12 seconds to my best segment. Armored Xemnas 2 is a pretty simple fight, but I can use Riku's Dark Aura after my last finisher to extend my combos. I also have to be wary of Xemnas' RV and reflect whenever he retaliates with his swing or whenever he puts up his barrier. When he knocks me away, I wait to drop a bit and then glide to the left where I know a building will always spawn. After the RCs, I glide forward and fall back down to Xemnas, where I repeat similar combos until I'm knocked away again.
Defend! Back off! Back off!
This time I spam the jump button until after the next set of buildings spawn, and I glide to the right for another set of RCs.
Nothingness is eternal.
For the third phase, Xemnas' RD is actually lower, meaning that he'll retaliate quicker. Since I was still a bit flustered from the internet dropping, I kinda forgot about his RV and got hit, but I made a pretty decent recovery. I also made sure to use an Ether before finishing the fight, since I need a lot of MP for the start of Final Xemnas.
Thank you, Smith, for the raid. I need a perfect Final Xemnas if I want top 5.
At the start of the fight, I need to spam Reflect so that he doesn't grab me, followed by a slap shot into reversal, land on the ground, use a reflect again, and do a slightly delayed guard break combo into a reflect finisher, and a bunch more reflects and reversals to deal more damage. I land on the ground and wait for Xemnas to teleport to me, reflect a couple times, and go into limit form to get through his bind attack, use R's immediately with all of the bashes except the final one, do a Zantetsuken combo into another R's and use more bashes without the final one. Then I do a slap shot, use an Ether, and do a ground break combo into a second Ether and spam reflect. Unfortunately, I was too slow on using the reflect, so Xemnas grabs me, but I can do some different reflect timings to push Xemnas into his last laser dome attack.
Let's go, dude.
No such
Top 5. I really hope I can submit this run, because if not, I'm gonna be really upset. I'm gonna be so upset if I can't submit this, because my internet went out for 10 seconds. I mean, even if I can't, I still got top 5 in my heart, I guess. I really hope the mods let me submit this. I'm not a mod. I'm not a mod. What are you talking about? Thank you, Plixaz. Who are the mods? You know, Crystal and Dessa are mods. I'm sure they'll understand. Oh, actually, Crystal might be like, nah, F you. Beating my time.
Riku!
But hell yeah, dude, top 5. Yo, Crispy, thank you for you're rating at a perfect time. Oh yeah.
With a 2:14.14, I'm officially a top 5 Kingdom Hearts 2 speedrunner, and thankfully this run was accepted to the leaderboard, so huge thanks to the mods for understanding. Thank you all so much for watching. I put a lot of time into running this game and working on this video, so I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did running the game. And huge thanks to my patrons over on Patreon for the extra support as well. If you'd like some behind the scenes looks at my video creation process and occasional updates on what I'm working on, you can go to patreon.com/violinspeedruns and become a supporter for as low as $5 per month. I hope you all have a wonderful day.